This mock exercise takes us through different situations or cases, and it's all to do with changing the estimate of perhaps the residual value, the estimated useful life, and how does that impact the amortization expense. So let's take a look at this very simple example. The key takeaway is understanding how to calculate the change in amortization expense when you have several scenarios. And in this case, we have 3 different scenarios to deal with. So you've got sample company, they bought a new equipment on year 1, so the beginning of the year. The cost is $26,000. The estimated residual value is $2,000. And the useful life is 10 years. Now, they've already accumulated, they've already amortized the asset, and they've accumulated $12,000. It is now the beginning of year 6, and management has reevaluated the estimated related to the equipment, and they're asking us to compute the amortization for year 6, assuming the following independent cases. So in case A, they changed the useful life from 10 years to 15 years. In case B, they changed the residual value to 1,000, so from 2,000 to 1,000, and the useful life remains unchanged. And in case C, it's asking us to calculate the new depreciation expense, assuming that at the beginning of year 6, the estimated total useful life is changed to 7 years, and the residual value also changed, and it was changed from $2,000 to $3,000. So let's take a look at how we would solve this problem. So first of all, in case 1, but before we even start with case 1, we need to, or actually, let's do case 1, case 1, or case A. And case A is change useful life to 15 years. So first of all, let's calculate the amortization prior to the change. Okay, so prior to change. The amortization expense should have been $26,000, which is the cost, minus $2,000 estimated residual value divided by 10 years, gives us $24,400 per year. Now, the cumulative amortization, it says in the question it was $12,000, which means that if I was to take $12,000 divided by 2,400, gives us 5 years. So this is the age of the equipment or the asset. Now, so conceivably, I didn't have to give you the year of purchase, right? So what we would have been told is only at the beginning of year 6, there was a change. But you can still figure out what year, how old the asset is by determining what the amortization expense is per year and divide that into the 12,000 to determine the age of the asset. So really, in this question, we didn't have to be told that the asset was purchased in year 1, enable us to determine the age of the asset. We can certainly figure that out by looking at this calculation. But nevertheless, this is just to confirm that we indeed have used the asset for 5 years. Now, what we want is we want to calculate the revised straight line amortization at the beginning of year 6. So first, how do we calculate the revised depreciation expense? We want to first calculate the net book value of the asset prior to the change. So the net book value prior to change is $26,000 minus $14,000, which is, or $12,000, sorry, which is the cumulative amortization, gives us $14,000. Net book value prior to the change is the first part you need to calculate. Then we're going to subtract the residual value. And in this case, it's the revised residual value. But this question did not have any revision to the residual value, so it remains at $2,000. Divided by the remaining useful life. That's what we're trying to calculate, the remaining useful life. How do we determine the remaining useful life? So the way I normally do it is we're told that the useful life has changed to 15 years. So this is the new residual life, 15 years, minus the age of asset. And the age of asset is 5 years. That means that the remaining useful life is 10 years. So if I take 14,000 minus 2,000 divided by 10 years, gives me 1,200 per year. This is the new amortization expense or depreciation expense in case A. Okay, so in summary, if we're just changing the useful life to 15 years, what we have to figure out is what would have been the straight line amortization expense prior to the change. And we were told that the asset original's estimate was $2,000 residual value and 10 years life, so they would have amortized the asset for $2,400 per year. Now, we can confirm that the asset is 5 years old by looking at the cumulative amortization expense divided by the amortization expense per year to give us the period, the number of years that the asset would have already been amortized. So that's the age of the asset. And to calculate the revised straight line depreciation expense is we need to calculate the net book value prior to the change, which would have been 26,000 minus 12,000, which is the cumulative depreciation expense. Subtract the revised residual value. In this case, it's still 2,000 because that was not revised. The estimates wasn't revised. Divided by the remaining useful life, and that would have been the new useful life minus the age of the asset to give us 10 years. That gives us $1,200 per year. So in case B, we're told that the residual value has been changed to 1,000 from 2,000, and the useful life is unchanged. Okay, and because there's a change in estimate, we need to always calculate the revised depreciation expense at the point of change. So first, the step one is we always calculate the age of the asset. And of course, we know that it's 5 years old. And 5 years old can be calculated. First of all, this was given in the question, but it's also can be calculated under case A, because we already did that in case A. You can always calculate the age of the asset based on the calculation that we did in case A. Now, we're going to calculate the revised amortization straight line revised. Again, it's always the net book value prior to the change. The net book value prior to the change would have been year 5, right? At the end of year 5. So that would have been 26,000 minus 12,000. Subtract the revised residual value The revised residual value is now 1,000 divided by the remaining useful life. In this case, that did not change. So we know that the asset original's useful life was 10 years minus the age of the asset, which is 5 years. So that gives me 5 years. And the calculation is 14,000 minus 1,000 divided by 5 gives us $2,600 per year. So that's the revised amortization for year 6. Now in case C, here's what happened. In case C, they changed the useful life to 7 years, and the residual value was also changed to $3,000. So step 1 is the age of the asset, which we know is 5 years, right? So we always want to calculate the age of the asset, and we know that it's 5 years. Now we're going to calculate the revised amortization. So first, calculate the net book value prior to the change, and that would be the same as above, 14,000. We're going to subtract the revised residual value of 3,000 divided by the new useful life. So you've got 7 years minus 5 years old, right? It gives you 2 years. So the amortization or depreciation per year starting in year 6 is $5,500 per year. So the hardest part when there is a change is first you need to understand what the change, there's only really 2 areas where a change could affect the amortization expense. One is there could have been a change in the useful life, and 2, there could have been a change in the residual value of the asset. If that was the case, then what we need to always figure out is the age of the asset. So prior to the change, how old is this asset? Because that's going to impact our denominator. Okay, how many remaining useful life? In this case C, we're told that the useful life was changed from 10 years to 7 years. But we already amortized 5 years, so there's only 2 years remaining. That's why the denominator shows 2 years. We always want to calculate the net book value prior to the change. In all 3 cases, it was $14,000. And we're going to subtract the new residual value, which is 3,000 from the 2,000. So we're going to subtract 3 to determine the amortization for 2000 or for year 6. Thank you.